Hello one and all, it's that time of the week again and we're back as usual with a weekly lowdown of all that's happening in the world of culture. Our top stories this week include a festival of northeastern India, some Kashmiri music and food once again from the valley. Art connoisseurs will tell you that the past week was a musical one, so let's begin with USA Symphonic Wind Ensemble.
In an extravagant setting, every inch of Habitat Center's stage got covered by the students of the Symphonic Wind Ensemble from the University of St. Thomas, Minnesota, USA. They brought with them a traditional performance of an American wind band. But they did throw in some different variety and many influences of their own into their musical style.
The number of pieces that have been written for the ensembles in this medium has just proliferated. There are incredible amounts of great pieces written for the ensemble. Our ensemble fits within this. It's a smaller group, that's why it's a symphonic wind ensemble as opposed to a big symphonic band. The difference is simply the number of musicians. So we're more of a classical wind ensemble, which typically is fewer people per part, gives it a more clear texture. And so we fit right into that model.
During the 18th century, the idea of an orchestra or a band was only associated with the army, who would normally perform for the royal courts or for ceremonial occasions, like the march piece they presented. But by the 19th century, their performances became more public. Following the guidelines, many bands evolved, performing elaborately for a wide audience.
We all love Bollywood also, we all love our Bollywood, but this is an exactly different thing we have heard. So we like it very much and we try to listen to those things also, as well as our Bollywood also. So this was the first time we have heard this and we liked it very much. So I like to learn more things about this and I'm also passionate about it.
A symphonic wind ensemble is a vast group of musicians consisting of percussionists, woodwind, and brass instrumentalists. Today's modern-day symphonic ensembles have many different woodwind instruments like flutes, piccolo, oboes, and trumpets. One of their pieces, which involved Professor Christopher, showed the magnificent use of the many instruments.
Music has absolutely no language, and that's why the beauty of a wind ensemble, where there is no language, there's no vocal, so it's open to interpretation. And Indian soul in the composition and Western instrumentation has been a phenomenal amalgamation, which is being appreciated because somewhere the composition touches people's hearts, and that's what actually makes us happy, that irrespective of the language barrier and irrespective of us being from India, our music is being appreciated elsewhere.
And as a musical surprise came Desi Jhalak, composed by Sameer Tandon himself. Breaking the bond of just reaching a selected few, through this composition, Sameer made Indian music reach a wider audience. Calling the encapsulation Mini India, it was a 15-minute delight where music ranged from classical ragas to Bollywood rhythms. Indeed, a mini musical India.
"20 performers and not a missing beat." What an exhilarating show that was. Now, the Festival of Northeastern part of India was all about voicing their opinions and also showcasing their musical talent for the world to see.
What divides us geographically and politically can be bridged culturally. With the same belief, Zuban presented The Cultures of Peace, a 2-day celebration of the festivals of Northeast. Through mediums like music, art, literature and others, the festival was dedicated to the Iron Lady of Manipur, Irom Sharmila, and to the late Assamese writer Indra Goswami.
We all want to bring the Northeast closer to the so-called mainland, and there are all sorts of not only misunderstanding but also lack of knowledge and lack of information about the states of the Northeast. So we're trying to present the culture, the literature, the kind of art and exhibitions of photographs, performers. There's going to be dance, music from the different states.
In a steady pace, the Northeastern culture seems to make its presence felt in the capital. With a wide variety and knowledge in musicality, new folk bands like the Musical Folks are coming forward. Hailing from Shillong, Rita Gatpo and her group bring out the natural beauty aspects of the Northeastern side in their songs.
Message is more to do with communicating the natural world, the human, non-human, and our message is more ecological. It's more to do with nature. So we want to preserve nature as much as we want and can go ahead with it, live and just give whatever we can right now, because it's almost like whatever you can see right now. Look at the trees, you look at the water, how many problems do we have? So that is one issue that we've been facing, and musical folk is basically we are always in search of these issues, and we either celebrate nature or we inquire nature.
As unique was their culture, so were their instruments, like the simpong, which produces a low sound, the dwitara, which is a 2-stringed instrument similar to the guitar, drums with their male and female versions, and a tangalot and tangmuri. These instruments were all traditional Khasi handmade structures which showed more of their inclination towards the natural side. Up next performed the Bob Dylan of the Nagas, Ruben Mashangwa. Hailing from Manipur, Ruben is a folk musician and a singer known for keeping the musical tradition of the Tangkhul community in Manipur alive and active. Ruben's music came as a fresh delight. He happily conveyed the idea of no borders and no wars, only seeking peace.
At the end of a fabulous show like this, it's time for us to take a quick break. Do stay tuned because there's more on the other side.
Coming up, soft tunes of the Santoor, followed by some Kashmiri food.
Welcome back. The attention to detail and the right mix of hues are what separates miniature paintings from most others.
In a small room of the Art Heritage Gallery, the miniature painting exhibition was held. But what made the small room priceless was the bright and bold art that covered its walls. These work were done by award-winning miniaturists who, by painting the bygone era of Indian miniature paintings, recreated magnificent miniatures from the Mughal, Jaipur, Company and many other schools.
ये मैंने कांगड़ा स्कूल का एक मतलब 12 मासा का एक पेंटिंग बनाई है। कांगड़ा का जब बॉर्डर होता है, ये ब्लू बॉर्डर होता है, इसका डिज़ाइनिंग होता है जैसा आप देख रहे हैं इसमें। और जो चेहरे हैं वो काफ़ी फ्लैट होते हैं, आइज़ भी बहुत लंबी होती हैं, आईब्रो भी लंबी होती हैं, फिगर का साइज़ भी लंबा होता है थोड़ा सा। और पीछे पॉइंट्स दिखाएंगे, कॉर्नर्स दिखाएंगे। और क्योंकि वो पहाड़ी स्कूल है, तो पहाड़ी स्कूल होने की वजह से सारा जो है ना बैकग्राउंड भी है ना ग्रीनिश होगा एकदम। तो इस तरह की ये एक कार्तिक का महीना है, मंथ ऑफ कार्तिक, जो रेनी सीजन के बाद मतलब ये स्टार्ट होता है।
The Mughal school of miniature paintings is considered to be a hallmark in the history of Indian painting. As Akbar, the then king, was inclined towards art and architecture, he let this style flourish under his reign. The paintings depicted the kings and the queens and their daily affairs. Like a depiction of Bahadur Shah in Diwan-e-Khas, an emerald color portrait of Shah Jahan standing and on another mounted on a horse.
Every painting is a very good composition with a very good subject like music, love affairs and then nature, and they have been shown a lot of fight also, and Mughal period dresses and ladies' dresses and all at that time. These are beautifully done. You can imagine that what type of people wearing at that time, and artists is executed nicely.
Making one of these paintings could take up to few months. These beautiful handmade wonders need an intricate and delicate brushwork, which is why they are so unique. In varied use of colors, sometimes liquid gold is also used, like on the embossed paintings. Due to these exquisite, elegant and flawless detailing, this art style is globally renowned.
Indian style, how the changes that form to form and ism to ism through miniature work, Kalighat painting, Potta paintings, or kind of different paintings all over the Indian. But the miniature is kind of different forms, colors, approach, everything. Then it's basic Indian and Indian the territories that Arabian, Islamic, Hinduist, both are mixed with this work.
During the British reign, this style received a new look. It came under the Company school, where the paintings captured the picturesque and exotic aspects of the land then. The dress code of the officials and the many light events of song and dance were painted in miniature style.
After the detailed lesson on the nuances of miniature paintings, it's now time for us to travel to the Valley of Kashmir with the reverberating tunes of the Santoor.
Sama, which stands for Sapori Academy of Music and Performing Arts, is an organization based in Kashmir. And it all began with the launch of the Sama calendar. This is an initiative which brought together the young artists of our country, Arushi Mudgal, Ambi Subramaniam, Abhay Rustum Sapori and the likes.
He has developed a concept which he calls classical fusion. He doesn't describe it as just fusion. By classical fusion, what he means is that raga is predominant and raga is essential to maintain the grammar of the raga, to maintain the bhava of the expression of the raga, to maintain all technicalities of the raga. That's the priority. And rest of the instruments are a support.
The magic of Abhay Rustum Sapori's Santoor soon followed. For 3 centuries, Abhay's family have been the center of the Sufyana Gharana of Kashmir. And his music carries with it the blessings of the 9 generations of musicians.
Really fantastic, because it's really great to see this kind of fusion between Indian and Western, and it's even more uplifting to see such young people perform. So for me, I can really relate to that, because when you think of Indian classical, you think of, you know, an older generation, but this is like really great, and I mean, I enjoyed every second of it.
With Akshay Dwivedi on the bass guitar, Shashwat Pandit on the acoustic guitar, Varun Chaudhary on the drums, Parveen Sethi on percussions, and Ustad Rafiuddin Sabri on the tabla. The 100 strings of Abhay's Santoor created soothing Sufi music while carefully blending contemporary elements.
This is soothing music. You'll be liking even the new generations. Basically, this music has been made only for the new generations, because the youngsters, they doesn't like the pure classical music. So it's a mix and match of pure classical as well as with some of rhythms and drums.
At times, the melodic and rhythmic variations gave it a Latin feel.
Samapa did a fabulous job by introducing us to this beautiful musical tradition, and it's now time for us to take a quick break. But on the other side, the Kashmiri food adventure will continue.
Coming up, delicious Kashmiri delicacies.
Welcome back. On Food Trail this week, I'm at Delhi Haat and I'm taking part in a Kashmiri food festival, and something tells me that it is going to be an experience that I will remember and cherish for a long time. Delhi Haat is all dressed up for the many festivals it's hosting. The green and white of the Eco Festival to the bright colours of the Kashmiri Festival. But my focus was of course on the food. Wazwan, which is the Kashmiri restaurant inside Delhi Haat, has been functioning since 1997, and the food festival is an annual feature here. They serve all kinds of Kashmiri food traditions.
Kashmiri Food Festival we organized because we want to give authentic food to the Delhiites, and we want to promote our tourism through the food. That's what we tap upon.
The Kashmiri Food Festival brought many people into the restaurant, and on a Wednesday when I paid them a visit, I had to wait for a seat.
When we saw this Kashmiri Food Festival, we ordered the typical Kashmiri yakhni, haq, saag. It's the typical Kashmiri thing, and the taste also is so good, which you can't find anywhere else except in Kashmir. We try to come here otherwise also, but with festival we always come here.
I began my food adventure with a mix of the two Kashmiri styles, the Pandit and the Islamic cuisine. So that means I had the rice, the Rogan Josh, the Gustaba and the Rista all for lunch.
I'm starting my meal with the mutton seekh kebab. A particular trait of Kashmiri cuisine is that they might look very, very spicy, all the items here, but they're not. They use a particular variety of chili which adds a lot of color to the food. The same applies to the kebab. It is coarsely ground and it tastes good. So now it's time to taste the long-grained basmati rice with the Rogan Josh. Wow. This dish is actually delicious. Another particular trait of the Kashmiris is that they prefer red meat over white meat. So most of their dishes are cooked using mutton. The mutton Rogan Josh is deliciously tender.
It was then time to taste the Rista and the Gustaba.
When you're here attending the Kashmiri Food Festival, you cannot but taste the Rista and the Gustaba. There you go. A nice piece of this one.
Two dishes which are similar and yet drastically different from each other because they originally came from kitchens of different communities.
Now the core ingredient in both these dishes are the same, but if you ask me, I'd prefer the Rista over the Gustaba any day, because here it is, of course, the mildly spiced yogurt-based dish, and that one is fiery and red, and therefore something up to my own heart.
Of course, to those of you who are looking for something other than Kashmiri, Wazwan will not disappoint.
Our knowledge about Indian food is very limited, unless we have Indian friends with us who can advise, which they normally do. So we took what we recognized. So this you'll find everywhere in Europe in Indian restaurants, tandoori chicken and masala chicken. We wanted just to try, and it was an excellent. In fact, it was not me, it was my colleague who made the choice. And it was an excellent choice. Two different traditional dishes, and we like it very much. And also, I think that I will try to cook it at home.
You can't come to a Kashmiri place and not have the kava. Now this is just tea but without milk, and they use almonds or walnuts and saffron inside. It's hot and it's really good for you, especially after the heavy Wazwan that you've just had. On that very sweet note, it's time for me to say goodbye. I'll see you next week on the same show, Colors of India. Do remember to send in your suggestions and feedbacks onto our Facebook page. Until later next week, goodbye and take good care.